So today I'm working on my 5.5 horsepower generator, Coleman PowerMate. It'll run on ether. I had it running a little bit better before, but it's been sitting around. I got it from a friend and it's just been sitting around for about 15 years. So we're gonna try and change out the carburetor. I bought a carburetor off of Amazon for about 12 bucks. I'm gonna change it out and see if that works. I'll bring you back through each of the steps to try and give you a step-by-step on how to do this. The first thing I did was I took off the airbox, but I already had that off. All it was unscrewing that off, and the whole process slid off and the filter came out. And so the next step is going to be taking off the housing for the airbox off the carburetors. 2 Phillips head screws, and then I'm going to take out those 2 and detach the throttle linkage and the fuel line back here. The vacuum line's already been disconnected also. A lot of people prefer to just use a regular screwdriver, but I guess I'm lazy, so I'll just do it like that, so I don't have to sit here taking an extra 15 minutes. And that's that. To do is to turn off the fuel. The petcock on this one is directly under the fuel tank, and if you don't do that, you'll know real quick, because as soon as you detach this hose right here, the fuel will start pouring all over the place. So just turn that in until it stops. And that'll stop you. The model that I got off of Amazon is for the Tecumseh 5.5 and 6.5. It looks like a direct replacement. Again, it was like $12 or $13 shipped. On the outside, I used a couple of adjustable wrenches, but on the inside it was a little bit different to fit in, but it had a Phillips head on it, so I just ran the drill on it real quick, and there's not a lot of torque on these bolts, so it worked just fine. Now it's to disconnect the linkage, which is just pulling this little slide pin out of there, a little hook, and then the fuel line. And then we'll have it off. In the throttle linkage, make sure to take note of which hole the linkage is in, so that you have the same proportion of throttle when you put on the new carburetor. These are the 2 carburetors right next to each other, virtually identical. Nothing different enough to make it a problem. And again, you see where the old linkage is. We're going to pop that right over into the same location on the other carburetor. Puppies want to come out and play with the kids. That was when I disconnected this vacuum line when I was trying to diagnose the problem. And I don't know if you can see in this area right here, the tube goes down from the top and then comes out under here, and it was really hard to get through there, so I would recommend not taking that out. You don't have to. I just tried to figure out if something was blocking it, and that's why I wasn't pulling the fuel. So my recommendation is don't take it out, just leave it where. And try and get the whole installation of the carburetor on camera. This is the new carburetor and the gasket, but actually before we put the gasket on, it's good to try and get the linkage hooked up while you can move the carburetor around. There we go. The gasket lined up. Like that. And get the screws in there. Bolts. Get the bolts in there, get them started. The other one never came out. Get that one in there. There we go. And that's pretty much it. gonna get the fuel line replaced. The vacuum line. That's it. Now it's just a matter of tightening up the bolts and putting the air intake back on, seeing if it'll run. Back, it was just easier to use the Phillips head. When you have a helper, it makes it easier when you're not trying to do two things at once. Screw these back in. Okay, snugged up. And actually I'm going to run it without the intake back on. We'll see how that goes. Turn the fuel back on. Everything's on. That's it. So that was the inside of the bowl. And the, I don't know what that piece is. Is it a jet of some sort? Maybe, I don't know. It's definitely like a jet. But that was all clogged up too, so that's a good reason why this thing wasn't running right the first place. And it looks like there's probably water in there. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like there's water in the fuel. So probably I didn't need to change the carburetor, but it had been sitting so long that there's no use in not doing it, and now it runs flawlessly. Before it wouldn't stay running at all. So